Hi, I'm Ian.
And I'm Jason.
And this is Ghosts and Bears, the only podcast where we bring you the actual ghosts
with the actual stories
from actual bears. On this episode of Ghosts and Bears, we're going back to the third person syndrome to find out more about exciting stories people have had that make you wonder what is going on. Coming up on Ghosts and Bears. Well, hello.
Hey.
How are you doing?
I'm good.
Excellent.
Yeah.
You and I were just sitting here talking about the studio because it looks
disorganized.
And
I mean, it was very piecemeal to come in.
You know what?
Here
I
and
just
do
organized
this.
it. Like I just moved the mics and I moved the wires around and I put and you're like, this looks like crap. And I'm like, oh man.
Well, it's.
I raised the other screen.
Yeah, I see that you're using my Walt Disney fancy book from 1971.
And 2 cans of tomato paste.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wow. I didn't even see those. That's really ghetto.
I knew you would love that.
So I spend a lot of money on all this fancy stuff, and it's being held and supported by Kirkland organic tomato paste.
Well, because I use a laptop to run everything, but we use the big screen to read everything off of, and the big screen was always just a little below the
That's fair, yeah.
laptop screen.
Yes, it was.
So it is
was
a lot better now. Yeah. So I like it a lot better now.
And Ian likes to pause and read, and I have to somehow magically read while he's scrolling.
I'm gonna really
skill.
I'm gonna really try hard.
I think I might need my own mouse. So
you're like
you're
gonna be like a newsreader. You know, the teleprompter.
Oh, well,
it's gonna be like that.
But the thing is, that goes at a consistent pace.
I know.
This is kind of like, wow.
I'm gonna try. Now, speaking of our studio and how we may change it up in here, the other thing I was doing was I needed a place where I could use my arrow garden. And
yeah, it's like a plant thing, office.
It automatically
studio.
grows things, and I got some tomatoes.
Yeah, there's a lot of them.
When? February?
Yeah.
I think February.
Yeah.
And now I'm proud to present to you the very first ripe tomato.
Oh my gosh,
I would like
so
you to
good.
please eat that and tell me what you think of it. Is it magical? Because I'm feeling like it could be magical. Is it good? Or does it taste like it was grown in a basement podcast studio?
No.
Does it taste real?
Oh, of course it tastes real. It's so juicy and delicious. I actually ate the greens.
Yay! Oh, that's exciting. All right, yeah.
It's small, delicious.
Yeah, well, they're supposed to be little cherry tomatoes, but they've gone crazy. And
Well, that's good.
Maybe what I'll do is I'll take a picture of it and post it on our Ghosts and Bears social media so people can see.
Yeah, they're beautiful.
My proud tomato plant. The reason it's in here is because our cat considers anything green as his personal salad bar.
Flossing, salad
flossing.
bar.
Randy Savage.
And then he likes to regurgitate it later. I don't understand.
Which is the worst part. If he was just eating it, I wouldn't be as annoyed. But when I come home and find a large green pile on the middle of my pillow, not so great.
That's Randy Macho Man Savage for you.
Randy.
He's rather unsophisticated.
And savage.
Yes, yeah. We have to be careful of whatchamacallits. The what are they called?
Twist ties.
No. Not the twist ties. I'm talking about like similar to cacti. What are we?
Oh, succulents.
Yeah, succulents.
Oh,
sorry.
those were a lost cause.
They are delicious.
They
must be juicy morsels.
I have managed to outwit him by putting them on shelves he can't reach, but they're not going to do well in our house.
So the irony is when we moved in here, there's this really god-awful, ugly desk, and it's too
not
big.
god-awful. It's from 1940 something.
Well, it needs a lot of love.
It needs a lot of love, and some of the drawers don't open, and the thing is, it was in the room.
And they can't get it out.
And they can't get it out.
You have to demo it to get it out.
And this room is tiny. It's about the size of a walk-in closet, I'd say. But it's got a window in it. And
It's a good size
little
walk-in closet.
on-air thing. Yeah, no. I'm not complaining. But it is a weird room. And that's where we have our little basement podcast
And
studio.
honestly, I would get rid of these tiles or just tile over them with something warmer.
Why don't we just put a rug down?
Yeah, because it's the thing is, people probably will laugh, and that's sounds pedantic, but realistically, our our nice office chairs I got us, they just roll around. It's very hard to stay still.
It is hard to stay still.
Because you just you touch the floor and then they roll backwards towards the tomato.
Yeah.
It's like,
don't hurt the tomato. Jason can focus on school.
Yes.
I can focus on the new Calgary book coming out.
Yeah,
and the Canada book.
That's going to be launching, September, isn't it?
October.
Okay, and then
we might go to Calgary, actually.
We have
to launch it.
We're going to have to start mapping out your new
Canada book.
No, because you've already started writing that. I'm talking the ghost route, Ghostly Walks.
PG Ghostly Walks. So I worked on that over the winter. That
it's all live, ready to go.
Yeah. So I just need to map out my route, and then PG Ghostly Walks will be launching June of this year. So that's kind of fun.
And a shout out to Carl. I guess this is his last weekend in the NBA for Grand Prairie.
Yep.
So good luck on that.
Yeah.
And Joey for last weekend.
Yes.
Congrats, you're done like us.
And an update from Kyle and Charlotte.
Yeah.
We had the Ghost in My House episode 2 weeks ago, and Kyle said, it's gotten way worse.
Oh, no.
Like the activity's off the hook since they talked about it on the podcast.
I'm not surprised.
I know.
Those
I'm not
things
either,
kind of hang out.
They are planning on looking for something else.
Since my aunt passed, there's been unusual, nasty activity in this house.
Well, not nasty, just
no,
a little odd.
It touched me.
Yeah.
It woke me up.
Yeah.
I was not happy about that.
No, that's not fun.
Yeah, and I had the EMF meter. Ian thinks I just joke around with it, but so we're in.
Look, there's a ghost inside my tablet.
Well, yes, I do have fun with that just to make it spike, but it was hovering around my face a couple nights ago when you were in the mushroom, and then he thinks it's funny how it just disappears when he comes out, and I'm like, I'm not surprised. I wasn't kidding when I said I think it's my aunt. I mean, her native name they tacked on a funny intro to it, like it's supposed to be kind person, and then because she was the way she was, I won't say bad, but they tacked on a taunts kind people,
right?
So there's a bit of the mischievous, I would say. So when I was getting headaches and it's so bizarre, this thing I'm holding out about the room, and when I brought it to my face, it went way up.
Yeah.
I was not happy about that.
And then your headache went away.
Yeah. It was when you came back.
I scared it off.
Probably, and you're like, oh, it's convenient that it just leaves. I'm like, no, because I was going around the room. I was going around the dog.
I believe what I said to you, Jason, was you can't be the boy who cries wolf all the time and then expect me to take you seriously.
So I'm not crying wolf. I'm making fun of it.
When you put it near the lamp and you're like, the lamp is haunted.
Yes, it is. Or my Samsung Galaxy Tab. It goes right off the charts.
It is pretty funny.
I'm not crying wolf. I'm just making fun of it. But we were in the hotel room last weekend, and Ian was a little bit, he gave me crap for turning it on. And he's like, that's not funny, blah, blah, blah. You're introducing things you don't even know. And
then what happened?
The instant second I turn off the EMF, something fell in the bathroom.
Yeah, and I'm like, see? Because what I'm saying is, if you're going to, and this is actually a good point, if you're going to use things like EMF meters or Ouija boards or anything like that, whether you are saying anything or not, the minute you put your intention towards looking for something or opening up that space for something to come in, there's a good chance it will.
Well, apparently it did. That got Ian a little bit upset.
Oh, I was annoyed. I'm like, I told you.
It was funny, and he admitted that it's because it makes him nervous. I suppose, yeah. For me, I'm not so much.
No, it freaks me out. I don't, because I can't
honestly,
predict it.
Before I used to be very, very nervous.
Yeah, you were.
But post investigation, yes, I'm a lot. There can't be anything as scary as the thing that was down there.
Well, no, and hopefully that's not what we end up getting.
No, agreed.
Coming at us.
But I'm wondering if it was Velma's way of saying goodbye or something.
Could be.
Maybe she was doing her funny thing.
Yeah.
And then she's gone.
I don't see why not. We are ready to go with our fun
third person
part two. And if you missed the first one, the third person syndrome, Shackleton, who was the big Arctic explorer in the 1920s, had a experience where they basically did a march to save their lives. And at the end of it, he said, it felt like someone was with us.
Antarctic.
Whatever. It's cold.
One's north, one's south.
It's cold, whatever.
North is the Arctic.
Right.
But, you know, to be fair, we live in Canada and we're near the Arctic.
Exactly.
We moved closer to the Arctic.
We moved
Circle.
closer to the Arctic. But yeah, so he and because he spoke about it publicly in the 1920s, other people started to speak publicly about it too. And there's the T.S. Eliot poem about who is the third
Correct.
man who walks with me, and I don't know who he is. And I remember reading about this and being so intrigued by it because I don't know why I've had my own experiences, as I talked about on the first show and Jason talked about, but I just never thought it was something that a lot of people experienced. Turns out it is. So to dive into that, we have some more stories for you, and we're going to go through those and have a little chat about them and see what comes out. Maybe these ones are going to be different in a way, or maybe they're going to introduce a new thing rather than the angel or the guardian angel or the deceased person or whatever it is that is out there. And we'll jump into that and see where they go.
Yes, I had my own third-person experience last weekend I didn't tell you about too.
And we'll talk about that as soon as we get into our stories. So we're going to be right back after this. And we're back, and it is story time. And Jason, you gave us a little tease there.
It wasn't intentional.
What?
But it
No.
did pop in my
It
head.
just popped into your head. What happened?
Well, we were going to head from Chetwynd up to Dawson Creek because it was suggested by a friend that we check out a luncheon that is hosted up there.
Yeah.
And it was supposed to be excellent. But as we were leaving Chetwynd to head north, your Google Maps said go down a different road.
Right.
So Google Maps...
Google Maps
basically,
has done us
there's-
wrong in the past.
Yeah,
so.
there was. Yeah, that's fair because we did the Heritage Highway, which is why we had the blowout on the other side of Tumblr Ridge.
Because it's basically a
coming from
glorified
Grand.
logging road.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the Heritage Highway is for what 140, 150 miles.
Yeah.
Is just a Forest Service road.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's not great for a little
Not good for
sports
any
coupe.
No, not good for any
You
regular
know,
car.
thank God we had brand new tires because we got to Prince George on the donut.
Yep.
I was
Yeah,
not happy
that
about
was
that because
4
that was like
hours.
5-6 hours of driving at 80 clicks.
Yeah.
So 50 miles an hour.
Yeah, that was awful.
Anyways, so we weren't sure because the normal way is you go to Dawson Creek, yes, and then head north.
Yeah.
And that adds a lot of time
An
and
extra
mileage.
hour. An extra hour.
Yeah, and so it diverted us to a shortcut, and we were heading up the hill outside of Chetwynd North, and I said, I don't like this.
Yeah, you got a feeling.
Yeah, no, well, it said turn around,
Yeah.
and so I did. I'm like,
Yeah.
you know what? I heard that same voice in my head the day that I got into that write-off and the Ford C-Max.
But
with
now
the
you
Audi.
listen to it.
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
So I'm like, you know what? That's okay. I will listen to it this time, and we can find something else.
And
to
what
do.
did I say?
That's fair.
Yeah, I said absolutely.
Listen to it
Good
this
enough.
time
Absolutely.
because we don't know if this shortcut is paved or not.
No.
And
So what we did do is we turned around and we headed back down, and we'd already said we are going to check out Mackenzie because we've never been there. It's much bigger than I thought it was going to be.
yeah, Mackenzie, BC.
But we also hit a place that one of your friends told us about, Azueta
Yeah, Azuzeta Lake.
Cafe or Lake.
There's a
It's a
there's
campground with a
there's
restaurant.
cabins. Yeah,
and it's
there's
not
restaurant.
big. It's not a big restaurant. They had the best Boston cream donuts I've ever had in my whole life.
I would actually agree with that one.
The chocolate was different. It was like a homemade kind of ganache. The donut was light and crispy, not super doughy. And the custard inside was like almost like a cheesecake custard. Like it was so
excellent.
good. They did a cinnamon bun, also amazing. And because it was lunchtime, we had the soup, which was a potato, corn, bacon chowder with a homemade bun. Oh my God.
So because azuzeta is a bit of a mouthful and difficult to spell, just Google Powder King.
Oh yeah,
Because Powder King, the ski hill, is basically across from the street from Azuzeta.
Yeah, it's so good.
Scott, one of my friends at UMBC, doing the MBA with me, suggested have their donuts or their cinnamon bun. It will blow you away. And I'm like,
so we did both.
Yeah, we got and we had soup. The soup was excellent. It was bacon, corn chowder, potato chowder.
So good.
And the only other place I had pastries near as good, if not as good, if not slightly better, it's a toss up, is
Deadwood Junction. In
Greenwood.
Why do I always call it Green Tree?
I don't know, because there's so many trees around here that are green. Greenwood. Deadwood Junction is Greenwood, British Columbia.
Where they filmed Snow on Cedars.
And we talked about that place because there was Phoenix, British Columbia, just up from Greenwood.
The ghost town, and we went up there.
And we really, 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 really wanted to buy that classic house that was...
The old rectory, the old Roman Catholic rectory. Talk about haunted.
Yes. I did post pictures of that place.
Yeah, that was a cool place.
It finally did sell, but it had a lot of character.
Yeah. No, for
It
sure.
looked a little lonely because it only had the little church beside it.
I know.
And it had a very large
And it backed
lot.
right onto the mountain.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
anyway,
that is past.
We should get on to these stories. So, Jason, why don't you take the first story for us? And I promise not to move the mouse.
All right.
Here's the first story of the third person.
This is submitted by Tamara. When I was 8 months pregnant with my first child, I was driving alone on the freeway on my way to work. It was raining and the roads were slick. I was behind a school bus in the slow lane and my exit was about half a mile ahead, so I was planning on quickly passing the bus when a voice yelled loudly, "Stop!" It startled me, but I was confused where the voice came from. Well, a few seconds later, about the time I would have been alongside the bus, if I hadn't listened, the bus driver lost control of the entire bus, went sideways on the freeway, taking up 3 lanes. I'm certain that my car would have either been crushed or run off the freeway. I believe the voice saved us. I definitely thanked whoever was watching out for us that day.
That's pretty scary.
Yeah, and freeways, you move at a good clip.
You do.
Most people don't realize that, most of the American highways are 65 miles per hour plus.
Yeah. No, they're a lot quicker than up here.
And if it's rainy, it can be dangerous. Depends. I don't know where Tamara lives or where this happened, but we encountered one heck of a storm in Montana.
Oh, Lordy, that was crazy.
And I wanted to zoom through it, not go dangerously fast, but I wanted to get the heck out of there because it was clear to me that's how flash floods happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we were doing 30 miles an hour on an interstate that was designed for 85 miles an hour.
Yep.
I-90. And I was following a semi.
Yep.
Because there were sudden slowdowns even at 30 miles an hour. And you know what? If there was a crash, I hate to say it, it's probably best to be behind a semi because he will clear the path.
Yep, absolutely.
And allow me time to stop.
Yep, sadly.
That was quite the rainstorm.
It was.
It was weird. We kind of came up, we saw how gray it was. We saw all the lightning flashes. This is last July.
Yep.
And then it was like a wall of water coming down.
No, it was intense. All right, next story. This one. Wow, I could have written this one. I wear a CPAP at night due to severe sleep apnea. The mask sits over my mouth and nose and provides positive air pressure to prevent me from stopping breathing during the night. There's a small tank of water that keeps the air from drying out my lips and throat. One night, about a week after my mom passed away, I was sleeping and felt a hand shake my shoulder really hard. I thought my husband was waking me up for work, so I shrugged him off. About 3 seconds later, I felt another hard shake, even stronger than before. This time, I sat up and took off my mask to yell at my husband, but he was sound asleep in bed. I laid back down and went to put my mask back on and noticed that it was about a third of the way full of water. My tank was backing up into my mask, and I seriously could have drowned. I'm pretty sure that hand was my mom saving me in my sleep. Ooh. I've had that water thing happen where it's cold in the room and the pipe gets condensed and all of a sudden you wake up because you're inhaling water. It's not fun.
Yeah, no, I've had that too.
That's really, ugh. Well, luckily for her.
It feels like you're
mom's
drowning.
Yeah, no, it's awful. It's like, I can't imagine.
And the last thing you need is to inhale that, especially with positive pressure. Straight
Yeah, because it's going to force it down. It's going to force it down your way. Ugh.
Not fun. So I was a competitive cyclist in my mid-30s. I was coming home from a training ride one Sunday morning, riding along a most deserted Culver Boulevard in Culver City, California. That's unusual.
Yeah.
A very large municipal bus passed me on the left going about 40 miles per hour, close enough that I was caught in the air wake of the bus.
Oh, no.
I was thrown off my bike, landing on my head and side, which crushed my helmet and broke multiple bones. Moments later, a beat-up van driven by two Mexican gentlemen pulled over to where I was, put me in the back of the van along with my bike, and drove me home. I never gave them my address of my house or directions on how to get there. They rang the front doorbell. My wife answered the door, shocked to see what I looked like. She thanked the men profusely and asked if she could do anything for them or pay for them for their kindness. They politely declined, saying it was what they do all the time. Then they just disappeared. I have no idea who or where they came from, but I'm glad they were there that day.
Wow.
Yeah, Culver is basically right there around Hollywood and Los Angeles.
Yeah.
So it is busy.
But what's crazy to me is that was like serious hands-on interference. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like a lot of these stories are like a voice or a nudge or these guys physically moved this guy and took him home.
Yeah.
And then just were gone. That's really cool.
That is interesting.
Yeah,
isn't it?
that's different. That's
I'm not
different.
sure if that's third person per se, or if that's
I
just
think it
kind
is.
people. Yeah, I guess so, because they just brought him home.
And they
without
came out of
knowing
nowhere
the
and then they were
address.
just gone. Again, they didn't have his address. That's crazy.
Interesting.
Yeah. All right.
So is that third person? Because
think
technically
so.
those are two people.
It's
Or-
third person syndrome, not third. Just has
Yeah,
to
but
be
that's
third
typically
person.
more the voice in your head as opposed to
No, so
real
that's-
physical
But
corporeal
that's-
beings.
Remember
bringing
what we read about last time with the people on the bike,
you. Oh yeah,
and they showed up and gave her medication.
but that's a little different too.
It's not.
This isn't moving people.
No, it's third
physically.
person though.
I guess
It's
third
people
person
coming
per
out of
se,
nowhere and basically saving your life.
Yeah.
And it seems the common denominator, you have to be
Yeah, right there at the
the edge.
tipping point.
Yeah,
of
the tipping
potentially being wiped out.
next story.
Well, he was wiped out.
Once I went on a skiing trip with some friends. After the first day of skiing, we headed back down the slope. Right at the bottom near the chairlift, my ski tips crossed and I fell. I was in pain after the fall, but I got up and went back to my room at the hotel. The pain was getting worse, and I feared it was a cracked rib. I was sitting on the bed, waiting for the tub to fill up, when I heard a male voice say, "Get help for your spleen."
Ouch.
I got up, got dressed, and headed down to the lobby, where they took me to the Slopes Medical Building. After the exam, the guy there said I could go and would probably be okay. I asked him to call an ambulance because of what the voice said. 3 hours and 90 minutes later, we arrived at the
90
regional
miles.
hospital.
90 miles.
90 miles later. They took me in and ran a CAT scan on me. The doctor came back and said I was bleeding internally and my spleen was ruptured. I'm so glad I listened to the voice, or I would have died that night in that hotel room. Wow.
Yeah, that's very true.
That's
You don't take those
crazy.
things lightly.
You know, I've had other friends have skiing accidents, and it seems to be the spleen that causes the most problem in those. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Know much about skiing.
No, I'm not
Clumsy.
really a ski person.
It's interesting. A lot of these are in California today.
Yeah, I know.
This
That is
one's
interesting.
from California too.
Here you go. Go ahead.
I was a father of two, and my daughter was about 4 months old and sleeping in her crib one night. My wife had been up for a while with her for a while and had finally gotten her to sleep. Out of the blue, I heard a girl's voice tell me to get up. I didn't think anything at first, but the voice yelled, "Get up again." Reluctantly, I did and checked on the kids. My wife had left a blanket in the crib with my daughter, and she had somehow gotten it wrapped around her head. I immediately unwrapped her, and she took the biggest breath ever. If that voice had not woken me up, we would have lost her. I believe it was her little sister who would have been born a year later, so telling me to save her big sister from beyond the veil. Wow.
Whoa, that's scary.
Isn't that interesting?
Now, do I believe that it was her unborn sister saving her life? No.
That's
But that's okay.
That's a stretch.
That is a stretch for me.
That does recognize the fact that we may be reincarnated, and believe me, I don't want to come back.
Yeah.
I think I've lived a good enough life.
But it's not even well, yeah.
Yes,
mean,
because that presupposes the fact that they have the ability to speak or interpret English, and they're unborn, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that means a variation of reincarnation.
Well, and if that person has a very strong feeling that that's who it was, then great.
You never know.
That's okay. I mean, I wasn't there, right?
There are unusual circumstances within family and genetic ties.
That is also true. Yeah.
Hence, I do believe it was Velma that was doing her
poke,
poke just for fun.
Yeah. And just to get your attention.
But, when you came back and that meter just went immediately back to normal, I was happy, but I also felt like I could sleep. And the last couple of nights, I finally slept well.
Good. All right. Here's one, finally not in California. I was a sophomore in college in Indiana and decided to make the 2.5-hour drive home for the weekend. 45 minutes into my drive, which was on side roads and tiny one-street farm towns where there's only one house every few miles, my car stopped. To make it worse, my phone had just died and I'd forgotten my charger in my dorm room. As I sat in my car panicking, I saw an older gentleman walking down the driveway outside a red farmhouse. I can't say if I noticed the house prior to seeing him, but he asked me if I was okay. He then proceeded to tell me that he would help me and that everything would be okay, and for some reason, I believed him. While he was talking to me, I felt calm and completely at ease. I wasn't scared at all. As he promised, he got my car started and off I went. The wild thing was that when I went back to school 2 days later, I couldn't find that house. This was the only way I ever went to and from school, and I was never able to find the house again. I get chills every time I tell someone what happened because I truly believe this was a guardian angel.
Wow.
That's cool.
Especially the house just comes and goes.
Yeah, and especially when they take that route all the time. You know what I mean? Like, that route.
Yeah.
And that it's just it's gone. It's not there.
Interesting.
Very cool. Very, very cool. All right, now I'm gonna give you a heads up here, Jay. You're gonna read this story, and I am going to move it.
Yeah, I get that.
All right, so you go ahead, and we will do our best to coordinate this properly.
I read this one. I pre-read it, but it's a bit weird than the second sentence. I don't understand that.
Oh, because she went in. It does make sense. I'll tell you after. Okay. Go ahead and read it.
So when I was 28, I had to go in for a C-section. His heart rate kept dropping whenever I'd have a contraction, and I was terrified. There was a kind nurse who came in with the OBGYN who was going to do the procedure. She was about my age, black, and had hair up in a beautiful bun. She actually reminded me of someone I knew in high school who'd helped me escape a horrifically abusive relationship, but she was much younger than that girl. I remember lying in the hospital bed crying my eyes out. I'm talking ugly crying, snotty nose, the whole 9 yards. She stayed at my bedside the whole time and came with me to the operating theater. She held my hand, wiped my nose, told me very kindly, "Don't you dare apologize for this. You're scared. It's going to be okay, honey." When they did the spinal block, she held me and let me cry on her shoulder and warned me what they were doing. After the tube was in for the spinal block, they laid me down and said, "All right, I'll be back. I have to get the sterile gown." I'd calmed down enough to breathe normally at least, and from there, everything is sort of a blur. I remember having my kid, kissing his forehead, and then being knocked out to finish up. When I came to in the recovery room, I asked my mom who'd been down there everywhere. Oh, who'd been there for everything. But me being rolled down the hall, the procedure, where the wonderful nurse was, she said she'd never seen a nurse that matched the description I gave. Same for the doctor and nurses who were there in the operating theater for the C-section. I have no clue who she was, but I'd like to think the universe sent someone who reminded me of a person who saved me from the abuse in order to help me through the scariest experience of my life.
That's cool. That's really cool. And I love that the person's appearance matched someone who'd already given them help.
Right.
to bring them even further comfort.
So I assume the second sentence with his heart rate was dropping was the baby?
Exactly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was about the baby. And that happens sometimes where the because of the way the cord is or whatever the compression is, that the kid is not going to survive being pushed out. So then they have
whoever
to do a
that
C-section.
lady was helpful and
Amazing.
calming down the situation.
Yeah. Yeah. And got this poor woman settled, because that would be really scary.
So these stories are a bit different because these aren't more of the voices in your head. They're more manifestations.
I think there is voices too, but
of course.
yeah, I think these are a bit stronger
These
in
are,
that
these
way.
are stronger presences.
I was a very poor college kid who hitchhiked almost everywhere. Okay, that's not good.
Yeah.
One day I'd been out visiting some friends that lived about 10 miles from my dorm. I'd gotten a ride back with a guy I'd met in class. I was getting out of his van when a woman's voice, oh, there you go, see? When a woman's voice told me that I needed to climb back in and thank him again for the ride. As I put my second foot up on the floor of the passenger side of the van, a huge truck and trailer passed behind me going about 45 miles an hour. I was told about the speed after the incident had been reported. It removed the van door and the trim off the door frame. It had passed on the wrong side of the road. If I hadn't turned back to thank him a second time, that truck trailer would have hit me and I would have been its hood ornament. I'm very thankful to whoever reminded me of manners that day.
No doubt.
That's a good example of voice, right? Mm-hmm. That's pretty wild.
So it sounds like a runaway truck and trailer, and they were too nervous to pass on the right side.
Whatever they
well,
did.
they passed on the right side per se.
They
Technically, they
just about killed somebody.
the correct side, I should say.
The correct side.
Too bad.
That's wild. But again, that voice.
The voice. That
like you
one,
had
that's
where you went, no, today's not the day.
No.
Yeah, same
Yeah,
kind
that
of deal.
was-
And who knows what consequences.
Yeah, so listen to that voice.
Absolutely.
If you hear it, may as well.
Yeah, you may as well pay attention. This is a long one, so I'm going to be scrolling again, just so you know.
Why do I get the long ones?
I can do it if you want.
My oldest was a child who would wander off regularly. They did it on school field trips, grocery store trips, and any chance they got to be on their own, they took it. Typically, they would always find me. This is a couple decades back, and the world wasn't as scary as it is now. That being said, at school, people always had to know where they were, as they would just show up and leave sometimes as well. When they left the school, they would usually sit on a bench or under a tree just by themselves and come back to where they were ready. Yes, they had pretty significant ADHD.
I have to interrupt you a little bit here, because I used to pull that crap all the time at school. Like, I would just get bored and just leave and go to the playground. And my teachers would go mental. And my grade 4 teacher, Mrs. Schleineck, she had this thing where if I sat in my desk and didn't wander around for 15 minutes at a time, I got a tile. And when I had 100 tiles, the class threw me a party.
Oh my gosh.
I was such a crazy child.
Well, I used to wander off with my mom when she went to clothes shopping at
I used to
Woodward's.
hide in the
I would always get
clothes racks.
pulled into the area, and then they would make the announcement for my mom to find me.
And you
That
loved
was
it.
Woodward's, yeah. And they would give me a cinnamon bun. I guess that was the reward of getting lost.
Exactly.
So the irony was the fact that I got a cinnamon bun for getting lost. And that came from Little Ollie's.
Which would encourage you to keep getting lost.
Yeah, Little Ollie's. That's an old place. And yeah, anyways, we're off track. One day they left school and no one was there where they had gone. One of the children heard them say that they wanted to walk home by themselves that day. Now we lived a good distance from the school, so a 6-year-old walking home alone was not an option. The daycare shuttle had even come and gone without them, and the caregivers were panicking because they didn't know where my kid was. That's a lot of days.
That's scary.
I showed up at the daycare after the day to not only find my child, but to learn that no one thought to call me and let me know anything that had happened to begin with.
Oh, no.
I was enraged that they had literally lost my kid and had no idea what to do. They didn't call the police or anything, so I left to go and track down my kid. Would have walked, terrified that I was never going to see them again. There's a lot of theys and thems.
Yeah, well,
It's
I
a
think
little
that's how
difficult to
they
read.
refer to their kid, though. Like, it's a gender neutral thing.
No, I get it.
Yeah. But it is a lot of they and thems to read. I get it.
It's a lot of nouns.
Yes.
Or pronouns, sorry.
Yeah.
It's vague. I was nearly nonverbal with terror at this point, speaking aloud only what I could. I stopped outside a small strip mall on the other side of town from the school. I was holding my youngest and almost burst into tears, having no idea what to do when a young man, oh, well, not a young man, who looked like he was about 20 or so walked towards me holding my child's hand. They were laughing and kind of skipping to keep up with him, and he pointed at me. My kid started running towards me. Through a lens of tears, I scooped up both kids and sat down holding my world in my arms for a second, breathing in both their scents, trying to collect myself thanks to this man. When I looked up, he was gone. Poof. I couldn't see them walking anywhere or anything. I asked my child, where did you find him, or did he find you? They told me I was tired and sat down at the park, and he came to me and told me I needed to go get going so my mom could pick me up. They said it in the most little kid nonchalant tone, like this kind of thing happened every day. I'm a lifelong atheist, and I firmly believe it was either a guardian angel or some other force that was watching out for me and my kids. I will never forget what he looked like, but I'll be damned if I could describe it. Isn't that interesting?
That's cool. Wow.
So it's an interesting, Good that they brought the kid home.
Well, amazing, actually, that the person got their kid back, and whoever it was or whatever it was knew exactly who the kid was, who the parent was. Because remember, the 20-year-old pointed at the mom.
Yes.
And then the kid started running. That's pretty wild.
Well, these things seem to know where people are.
Oh, yeah. They're
connections.
Fully versed. All right. When I was in college in Chicago, I went on a very fun but badly supervised trip. Weren't those the best school trips? The badly supervised ones?
I guess. I can't remember too many, though.
Oh, I do. I went on a very fun yet badly supervised trip to the Middle East. Oh, my goodness. Wow, that sounds like a bad place to not be supervised. With a few friends who were mainly interested in making their first iteration of Facebook profiles look cool. We posed by the pyramids of Giza, and folks commenced wandering around. I was by myself for a few minutes in the shadow of the pyramids, fiddling with my digital camera and lost in thought. Suddenly, I heard a man's voice call out my first and middle name in that special way your parents do when you're a kid and you're in trouble. The way that still makes you unconsciously snap to attention no matter how old you are. Mm-hmm. The voice said my name sternly and then said, "Run now." I started running before I even looked around, chaos slipping in the sand as I went. As I gained momentum, I looked behind me and saw two men, black hoodies obscuring their faces, chasing me at full speed and almost an arm's length away. Directly behind them, a large van with no rear windows waited. Its side door slid open, only darkness visible inside. As I got back to the bright sun and the crowd, the men veered away and I knew I was safe again. I didn't find anyone from my group for several minutes, but I knew for sure that no one there knew my middle name and couldn't have yelled it out to me. I was too embarrassed to admit the stupid thing I'd done, so we carried on for 9 more days and then went back to Chicago and never talked about it. I was a lot more religious then than I am now, but it still gives me comfort to know that someone or something intervened for me when I needed it. I think I can point to other similar moments when I felt a life-altering spark of guidance, but that moment was definitely the scariest.
Wow.
That line is great. I felt a life-altering spark of guidance.
That is a good sentence.
That sums up most of these stories.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I would say that's well written.
That's very cool. Yeah. I'm
going
to remember that line.
Into that one.
Yeah, that is good insight. I'm going to remember that. Life-altering spark of guidance.
Good lines. We recently watched a movie that had excellent
We
lines.
did. American Fiction.
Very
good.
It was recommended by a friend of ours,
yeah.
and she said it was exceptional. I think it very quickly jumps to one of the best movies I've seen in my life.
I would agree with that. It had enough layers and twists and turns and brilliance to it.
And I compared it to Inception. Not quite that level of
twists and turns,
but in regard to its context, I would say, yeah, it's that level.
So check it out. Let us know if you watch it. All right, Jason's got the next one.
So I got into a car accident last year. I lost control on black ice and flipped my car 4 times into a field. I awoke to a female EMT telling me to reach in the back seat and get one of my knives and cut the seatbelt and crawl out to her. I had been airlifted to a city 45 minutes away, and she kept telling me to stay awake, stay awake. Finally, she screamed at me, "Stay awake!" I woke up in the ICU where I had nearly died. I quickly learned that there was no female EMT or first responder of any kind on the scene, and definitely was not one of the on the flight.
Wow.
No one could explain how I'd managed to get out of the car or how injured I was. I don't know what or who she was, but I love her. Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
That's a good one.
It's very
That's a very
dangerous.
good.
Black ice is so dangerous.
No. Black ice is so scary. I have no time for it.
But staying awake, that's
Stay awake.
smart.
Stay awake. And told her what to do, how to get out of the car.
Yeah.
That's wild. It was the summer just before my 12th birthday, and my last summer at the summer camp I'd attended for several years. The camp is located in the coastal mountains in Southern California with regular beach days in the schedule. As a strong swimmer, I enjoyed the beach and body surfing the waves. This particular day I was out in the surf when I saw a large wave coming. Being too far out to reach the shore, the only option was to swim furiously towards the wave. I crested the wave just before it broke, only to see another larger wave coming. Swimming as hard as I could, I again barely made it over the top before the wave broke, only to see another large wave further out. I swam as hard as I could, swimming up the swell, but I didn't make it before it broke. The wave threw me over on my back and into the water and into its washing machine waves, tumbling me every which way. Not knowing which way was up, my feet hit the sandy bottom and I pushed towards the surface with all my might. I finally reached the surface and exhaled, only to be hit by another large wave, which tumbled me around and around. Struggling, trying to find the surface and out of air, I stopped trying. I felt an odd sense of peace, thinking, this was it, and this is what drowning felt like, peaceful. It was at that moment that I felt someone grab me, bring me to the surface. I gasped for air. The large set of waves had passed, and the surface was as it was before the large waves. Treading water, I looked around, looking for who saved me, but no one was even close to me. This was the 1970s, and I've told this story numerous times, emphasizing the peace and calm I felt. I've never once mentioned that no one was there, until now. Instead, I made up that it had been a lifeguard.
Wow.
Well, I guess in a way it was a lifeguard.
Yes.
Just because it wasn't a human being lifeguard.
I wonder. Wow.
That's really cool.
Yeah, some of those waves are pretty big.
That's why I don't swim in the ocean.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I just don't.
It's relatively unpredictable.
It's 100%. And I living on Vancouver Island and going to the local beaches enough, you realize how unpredictable it is. And the number of tourists I saw get swamped. Or remember Botanical Beach?
Yes.
Someone, every single year, a tourist or two got dragged out and gone forever at Botanical Beach because you think, one thing I learned, you never turn your back on the ocean, ever.
Oh, it's interesting. Yeah, I did some wave jumping that was out. Oh my goodness.
Where were you?
I'm trying to think of the name. It's
Yeah.
it's out on. It's
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
past Port Alberni.
Okay. Yeah.
Tofino.
Yeah. Tofino. Yeah.
Yes,
Long
that
Beach.
was when I was with the Sea Cadets many years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, that Long Beach. Correct.
Yeah.
That's right. I remember that. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. The wave was the water was unusually warm.
But it can grab
That's
you
way back in the
and
90s. Yes,
pull you,
Yeah,
and all of a sudden you're way further from the shore than you thought you were.
yeah, because those wakes are powerful.
And
Most
those
of it-
currents, those.
And I think the lesson to be taught, what we were taught, is don't fight it.
Yeah, you're supposed to swim with it.
Yeah, swim with it because, or just try to get almost relaxed and calm, because you'll expend all your energy if you don't. Wow, interesting. I haven't thought of that
That's
for
pretty
a long
wild.
time. I remember it was a light gray day.
Yeah. Nice.
So in 2000, I was living in Florida with my ex-husband. He was very controlling, and I wouldn't allow me to have my friends or talk to anyone else.
Keep going.
Sorry.
It's just badly written.
It was like that for many years. After 13 years of the same situation, I was fed up. I started arguing with him and asked why I couldn't talk to anyone, including my family, on the phone without him on the other line.
Yeah, that's controlling.
We argued, and I asked him to leave and told him I was calling the cops. We were in my bedroom. We were not sharing a room for the last 2 weeks or something like that. And I turned my back on him to pick up the phone in the corner. I was confused because the line was busy, not realizing he had hooked the phone downstairs. I looked at the phone and I heard a male voice say, "Duck." It was a deep, beautiful voice. At the time, my knowledge in the English language was very limited, almost non-existent. But I understood what the voice told me. I bowed my head instantly, and I felt something graze the top of my head. My husband behind me had tried to behead me with a machete. Wow.
Yeah.
That day I fought for my life. He was way stronger than me, but I survived. I think that whoever was with me in that room saved me. I only heard my voice once, and that day many things had happened, making me believe that me and my children were helped by more than
once.
Once.
That's pretty wild. That's
Sorry,
pretty intense.
you were moving it again.
That's pretty intense, though. Like to have that happen with a machete.
Yeah,
Yikes.
that's pretty graphic.
That's really scary. Yeah.
That's a very bad situation to be in.
I'm glad that person got out of it.
Was that Florida?
No idea.
I don't know.
Probably. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, I was wondering if they came from Cuba or something, and that's kind of that's definitely a form of learned helplessness. But that third person definitely helped that person survive.
About 12 years ago, I was alone and driving on a narrow, winding back road to visit a friend. Suddenly, a strong male voice behind me said loudly and clearly, "Slow way down and get way over." I immediately hit my brakes and got as far over as I could. There was no shoulder. As soon as I did, a huge tractor-trailer came barreling around the curve towards me right in the middle of the road. Had I not been warned, and had I not instantly responded, it would have run right into me. And I believe that voice saved my life. Wow.
Holy smokes.
That's another good voice one.
That is an excellent voice.
Right. Do you want to read the next one?
Sure. About 10 years ago, I lived in Chicago with my family. A huge snowstorm hit us one weekend, which was nothing for us. We went to volleyball practice as usual in my mom's minivan. Unfortunately, that day the van got stuck. An old man got stuck in the same spot, and we were trying to help each other. Out of nowhere, another man walked up and started putting gloves on, telling the old man he'd help us first, then get him out. A few minutes later, we had both cars free. I turned around to thank him, and he was gone. We were in a random neighborhood, and I never saw him leave a house or go back to another one. I'll always remember him.
That's cool. I mean,
handy.
Well, and it's not like it was life-changing, or maybe it was. Who knows what would happen if they'd gotten stuck there?
Well, yeah, you're right.
Right?
Could be a car accident.
Yeah.
That prevented, yeah.
Yeah,
Who knows?
In the mid-'80s, I was in college and flew home for a weekend for my mom's birthday. The flight was late, which made the entire evening off schedule and later than anticipated. When we finally got home, my dad went to bed and my mom and I stayed up for a while and talked. Finally, I went to my bedroom in the lower part of the house. For whatever reason, I could not fall asleep, which was unusual for me. At some point, I decided to get up and go upstairs to get something to drink from the kitchen and watch TV. As I sat in bed, I felt something strong push me, so I laid back down. Let me emphasize, this was a strong push. So much so that it laid me flat despite being 6'6" and 240 pounds. Almost simultaneously, as I laid flat, I heard two extremely loud explosions. After the second explosion, I shot out of bed and ran to the foot of the stairs. Looking up to the top of the stairs, I saw what looked like smoke or fog and my parents looking down at me. I went up the stairs, and the three of us explored the house to figure out what had happened. After looking around, we noticed the heavy, drawn drapes by the living room windows had moonlight streaming through the fabric. We turned the lights on and noticed the drapes were ripped. On closer inspection, we saw tiny particles of metal strewn everywhere. It was embedded in the walls, the furniture, and the upholstery. The double-pane picture window had 2 holes where 2 bullets had entered the house. The bullets' metal fragments shot all the way to the back of the house, and this occurred at 3:04 a.m.
Wow.
For the next 2 nights, exactly at 3:04 a.m., the phone would ring. When we answered, the voice on the opposite end just laughed. Those bullets were intentional. Had I not been late due to the plane's late arrival, thus pushing back our schedule, and had I not been physically pushed back down on the bed, those bullets likely would have found themselves in me. I think my third man saved me by physically pushing me down that night, preventing me from getting up to watch TV.
In Ohio, wow.
Wow. That's crazy.
No kidding.
Who's trying to shoot you, buddy? Like, what's going on there?
What did
there was
you
no
do?
context there.
Well, I think that's deliberately left out.
Probably.
I don't think you just go around randomly shooting people.
Yeah, I mean, I don't, but maybe that's just because we're Canadian.
An
I don't know.
erroneous shooting. I mean, that seems a little targeted, but good for you, Ted. You survived that
That's
one.
right. All right. You're up.
So when I was 23, my girlfriend and I had driven from Boston to Hartford to pick up our friend Neil. He was going to stay with us for a while until he got an apartment of his own. He was carrying a small pot in his hands with an equally small cactus and plant in it. I like cacti.
Me too.
On our drive home, Neil was in the back seat of my car. We approached an intersection near our place on a divided highway with a light, which was green for me. I was going the speed limit, 50 miles per hour in the left lane, and I suddenly knew I had to hit the brakes hard. I was almost in the middle of the intersection, my car spinning, when I saw another car coming tearing through the left, going at least 60 right in front of us. He quickly disappeared to the right, while our car came to the rest facing the wrong way against the right guardrail of the far side of the intersection. Neil was in the back now holding his cactus root ball with a dirt pot for everyone, with dirt from the pot going everywhere. When we went home, we were in reach and had a drink. We each had a drink that night. When I tried to explain that I just knew that I had to hit the brakes that night, it had been almost 50 years, and I can still remember everything and how that happened.
That's wild, eh?
50 years. Well, brakes weren't that good.
No, brakes weren't that good.
Cars were certainly less safe. So to have it spin out, I'm not surprised.
Oh my gosh.
Bias ply tires.
Yeah, no, there are all kinds of bad
rear
things
drums
going on.
that lock up every 2 seconds.
Yeah.
So the spinning out, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
from St. Paul, Minnesota.
All right, we got our last one, and we'll do this, and then we'll do our wind up, and then we're done.
Mm-hmm.
I've actually had more than one experience with this. The first was in 1992, as told by my dad. I was 6 months old, and my parents had decided to take a little family trip up the mountain to Big Bear. We went there, Big Bear Lake. One morning, I was hanging in my playpen, which was positioned in front of the TV, and was obsessed with Disney sing-alongs. My dad said he heard a very loud voice urge him to rush out of bed and grab me. As soon as he lifted me out, a huge earthquake hit, and the TV, mounted above my playpen, fell exactly where I'd been laying. If my dad hadn't gotten up at that exact moment, I probably wouldn't be writing this now. The second was when I was in elementary school, in Brownies to be exact. We took a trip to the mountains. We were at a marina in Lake Arrowhead feeding some ducks. I was so caught up with throwing food to this one particular duck that I didn't realize how close to the edge of the dock I'd gotten, and I fell into the water. It was wintertime, and I was wearing several layers of clothes. I was so heavy and weighed down that I could barely get to the surface. I remember trying really, really hard to grab the edge of the dock, but I couldn't hold myself up, and the troop leaders weren't strong enough to pull me out. Everything started to feel like slow motion, and the further down I kept sinking, the more I felt like I wasn't getting out of the water alive. Suddenly, some man dressed in a full-on suit, dress shoes, and sunglasses jumped in the lake and effortlessly pulled me out of the water. He never said a word to me, and when my troop leaders turned around to thank him, he'd quite literally vanished as quickly as he'd appeared. We were all absolutely shook. That's
shook.
pretty wild, eh?
I'm not used to seeing that word. Shook. Wow. Well, that's...
Wow.
Yeah, Big Bear is beautiful.
Big Bear is beautiful. Yes.
Yeah, so you can actually Google Big Bear Lake and the Eagles.
Yeah, you can
beautiful
see the
Eagle Cam.
What was their name?
Jackie and Shadow? Is it Shadow?
I think it's Shadow, yeah. That makes sense.
Oh my goodness. They're beautiful. We were driving through that way in January, and Ian's like, I took him, I surprised him. I wanted to go a different way back to Vegas to catch our flight from Los Angeles, because we went to Beverly Hills, Santa Monica, Las Vegas.
Yeah.
Tucson and what? Scottsdale.
Yeah.
Scottsdale was beautiful.
Yeah.
Anyways, so I brought him through Big Bear Lake, and he was stunned. Like, it's so beautiful
It was
out there.
beautiful.
And I said, this is where the camera is. And I said, I can guarantee it's to the left. And he looks up the camera. And he's like, oh my God, you're so autistic. That is totally the curve where it was on. And it's up the hill. You can't see them. But we did see one of the eagles flying.
Yeah, we did.
I don't know which one. It doesn't matter. But we did see them flying and cruising looking for fish.
Yeah. So there we go. So there's our third person stories.
Yeah.
We hope you enjoyed them.
These are a lot more physical ones.
Yeah, they are. A lot more. And a lot more physical kind of interaction too.
Yeah, they're not so much the voice in your head.
No.
They're a lot more interactive.
That was cool.
Touchy-feely ghosts.
If you have any of these third person stories,
please share them.
Share them. And we'll let you know how to do that just right when we come back. So thanks everyone for listening to this episode. You may have noticed the opener has changed.
Yeah, the opener changed.
We are changing our format a little bit just to make it so that we can still do this podcast and still bring you some really fun stories, enjoy our time with you, and make it consistent. So we are bumping it up to 2 episodes a month now, back to where it was.
Every other week. Well, technically that's... there's going to be 2 months in the year where there's bonus episodes. Technically,
stop it! And
I'm such a dork.
If you are enjoying it and you want to support us, we'd be super grateful. We have Patreon, and that's going to help us keep going. And
it helps pay for our items.
It helps pay for everything. It pays
we'll have
for
to rebuild this room.
Libsyn. It helps pay for all of that, and we are going to have to fix this room up because I agree with you. It's
like
a bit
wires
rough.
Everywhere.
Well, it's hard to maneuver in as well. We kind of have to.
Well, we're not tripping
here.
them over them, but the desk is like, wow.
Yeah,
wire city.
Well, and the desk takes up 3/4 of the room.
Yeah. I won't miss this desk. I mean, it's fine. It's a very good desk. If someone wants it, feel free. But
I'd love to see how you're going to get out of the room.
Well, you have to demo it.
Anyway, our Patreon, we want to say thank you to those of you who are our patrons and who get to enjoy the ghost stories we have heard, which is the episodes we release every other week when we're not putting out a regular episode. And also they get their super fun merch.
Yes, merch.
Stickers,
Everyone loves
cups,
merch.
T-shirts. Also, we're going to try and bring back the monthly chats with Jason and I and see if there's people who want to do that.
Of course. Yeah,
we were doing that and then we just sort of stopped doing it. And
well, the big move.
And we just haven't gotten back to it, but we're going to get back to it. If you're interested in it, please let us know.
We usually do them on the Sundays.
Yeah, we just have like a little video chat with everybody and see how people are doing and get to know you, and you can ask us questions and all those fun things. So we just want to give us, we want to say thank you to everybody. And right now we're saying thank you to Michelle,
Taylor,
Dawn,
Robin,
Maria,
Gina,
Sherry,
Marianne.
Kathleen. Is it Marianne or Marion?
Marianne. Sorry, I apologize.
Kathleen.
My glasses are really dirty. Alexa.
Mary Frances.
Christopher.
David.
Ashley.
Jeremiah.
Elizabeth.
BB Nix.
Melinda.
Jordan.
Tammy.
Taya.
Evan.
Arwen.
Steve.
Kyle and Charlotte.
Catherine.
Myri. Thank you so much.
We're very, very grateful.
We're super grateful. You guys.
And you did the usual scrolling.
But I did it when I read it, not when you read it. I hope you noticed that.
No.
I can't win with you.
No. It's not a win.
I'm just going to print you out a list, and you can.
Yeah, that would be great.
Read it.
And these glasses, my God, they're filthy. That's the problem with living in print storage in the spring.
Everything's dusty in the spring. I know. Yeah. So if you have stuff for us, stories, places you want us to talk about, anything you have like that, send it to ghostsandbears@gmail.com. You can also find us on the socials, of course, Facebook and Instagram, where we are certainly on the uptick for posting there, which has been really fun.
And our camera crew is working something in the background. I'm not sure yet.
I know.
I'm
They're
excited.
Doing something down in Victoria,
Alex.
and we're excited.
Chris.
We're excited to see what they come up with. I miss
don't
those
know
guys.
what is. Yes, they need to just move up here.
They just need
Life
to move
is
up
just
here.
better.
We'll just have a compound, a Ghosts and Bears compound.
Yeah, come in a resort.
A resort.
We'll have EMF meters. Feel free to use them
in every room.
Ian will get upset every 5 seconds every time you turn one on.
I'll be like, stop doing that.
Although fair, that was a little unusual when I literally turned it off and then crashed.
In the bathroom? I was not happy about that.
It was interesting.
All right, friends. Thank you for joining us.
You.
I hope you enjoyed this episode. We have more episodes planned and literally ready to go.
Yes.
Not recorded, but they're fully prepped, and we're excited on sharing those with you, and I hope you're enjoying them as well. Please give us feedback. We want to hear it. Also, don't forget to rate us and review us on Apple iTunes. We'd be really grateful for that.
Jazz.
All that, yeah.
And all that jazz.
Stop it.
What?
You and your weird little phrases.
Well, no, that's the number Chicago, of people, isn't it?
The number of people who sent me the Kool-Aid Man after our last episode.
That's fun. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. All right. Thanks, friends.
I didn't use that much this time.
No, and I'm grateful.
Yeah.
No, stop. Just stop.
I did at the very beginning.
Yeah, you did. All right. Thanks, everybody. You guys have a wonderful day,
evening,
week, night,
weekend.
month, whatever you're doing. We love you.
Have a nice month.
Have a nice month.
That's an interesting one.
Thank you. All right. Take care, guys. Bye.
Bye.